Hey, what's up guys? Scott Dichotomy here. Hope you're all doing good. It's been a little while since I've updated everyone with the vlog. I'm kind of busy focusing on other things. Whoa. I kind of wanted to update y'all on exactly what I've been up to, what other things I've been focusing on. And I thought I'd do so while taking you all on one of my daily hikes and one of my favorite new spots to hike. And hiking with Scott Dichotomy has been a pretty regular segment with what I'm doing, so pretty appropriate. And this spot is particularly cool. I'm gonna be sharing what I'm up to, along with sharing the sights along the way. And also, toward the end of the video, I'm gonna share with y'all some, I'm gonna read a short story from one of my favorite horror authors. It's Nathaniel Hawthorne. If you haven't heard of him, I feel like he's not as well known as Edgar Allan Poe or H.P. Lovecraft, but he's like kind of similar style writer. And I just love like anything he writes, just he could be talking about nothing, but like his words are just so beautiful. I don't know if you can see, but I'm walking straight up the mountain right now, basically. Turn around so you guys can see what I'm doing. It's hard to tell on camera, but I'm straight up the mountain. So, if you've been following me on my personal Facebook, you know what's up. For those of you that have not, I've been focusing most of my efforts on live streaming recently. Seems like I get the most attention and feedback and interaction, which ultimately provides me the most value as far as what I'm trying to do to support myself doing this. And it's also just easier. Like I can just, or in theory it's easy. I thought it was easy, but it's actually not. But I mean, I don't have to edit a bunch of stuff and like do a bunch of work in that regard. But cool abandoned locations up where I'm at right now. It's like an abandoned ski area basically. But what I've been mainly focusing on recently is live streaming. And initially I thought that was the easiest thing to do. Like when I do a video like today, there's all kinds of like drone shots and like a bunch of stuff edited together, and it requires a lot of editing and rendering and, you know, like downsizing the files to be able to work with them and stuff. So in that regard, live streaming is a little bit easier. It's also more fun for me in a lot of ways. I've really grown to love my followers and interacting with them and sharing perspectives and stuff. That's gotten really fun. But outside of that, I'm still doing my usual stuff. I'm focusing on writing music, playing music. That's one of the things I'm live streaming quite regularly. I've been doing a lot of tower readings and energy healings. That's been one of my main focuses recently. That's actually starting to bring in a reasonable amount of income for me, which was more than needed. Like I was starting to get into a pretty dire financial situation, to be honest, having nothing to do with the coronavirus. Thankfully, that seems to be resolving itself for the most part. So if you're interested in tower readings, energy healings, I discovered recently I can diagnose and heal people at a distance. I've always known I could heal people at a distance, but I actually accidentally diagnosed someone while I was doing a reading for them recently. And when I'm doing a tarot reading for people, it costs $60 for a reading. You get about an hour or so of my time, and what I do is I focus on the individual. I ask you to focus on me, and it's ideal if we meditate. You know, we don't have to be together. It actually works better if we're not together, for my personal preferences at least. So if you meditate where you are, I meditate where I am. We focus on each other. I try and connect with you that way. And then I also do an energy healing to get in touch with your body and to just, you know, heal you. It helps me get in touch, and also you get free energy healing with it. And I was doing that recently, and I just noticed I was going through a chakra cleansing with the person that I was reading for, and I noticed like a discomfort in their lower abdomen. And I actually forgot to even mention it until after I had like told them the results of the actual tarot reading. I forgot about it for a couple days, and then I went back a couple days later. The reading was very accurate, and actually a bunch of things I predicted actually came true for this particular person. And I totally slipped my mind because I wasn't even sure if like it was her that I was healing, or I was just feeling myself or something. But like a couple days went by after she was like blown away by the reading, and I was like, oh, by the way, while I was doing your healing, I felt like this discomfort in my lower abdomen, and I don't know if it was you or me. It felt like it was you though. And then so I did my normal energy healing, and as I focused on healing it, I noticed like a wave of relaxation and relief just flushed over my body after I healed that particular chakra, which I don't know if I've really experienced anything like that particular. Like a general chakra cleansing definitely provides relaxation and a sense of relief and stuff, but I never felt like an issue in a chakra from someone I never met before, and for like thousands of miles away across the country. And so I explained all that to her, and I think if I remember correctly, I was just like, maybe I'm crazy, but did you have something going on in your lower abdomen by any chance? And I think her response was, wow, or something to that effect. And she was like, dude, I was having an ulcerative colitis flare up all week, and after we did the reading, it went away and hadn't come back. And mind you, I didn't even say anything to her until a couple days after it went away, what happened. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm going right now. It's muck over here. But yeah, so apparently I was able to diagnose and even heal her colitis flare up. And she's since hit me up for several readings and healings and stuff. Trees. But yeah, so I offer those services for $60. And then so I go through all that with you, and then I'll provide a little 5-minute video summary with the imagery in the cards and let you know what I see. And then from there we can talk for like 20-30 minutes if you need clarification, you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything. Yikes. basically the running theme is me just like sharing what I'm all about, my thoughts and perspectives, like what I'm up to, and also just trying to inspire, entertain, and inform everyone and try and help them find the happiest, healthiest version of themselves. And that's ultimately what I'm here for, what I'm trying to do. And I do that in a bunch of different ways. I also give like all kinds of product recommendations and stuff. Like if you go back, there's a few videos back, I did a live stream on here that was super long, but I was basically recommending different supplements intake that can help boost your immune system. And so I'm part of the Amazon affiliate program, and just for full disclosure, anytime you follow a link that I ever share, I get a small commission of whatever you spend on Amazon. And the reason I do that is because I fully believe in Amazon. I use it myself a lot, and I think it's a great service. I would never promote or recommend something that I don't personally use or find to be a good service. And I just love Amazon for all kinds of different reasons, especially because of what's going on now. Like, you can order just about everything you need on Amazon. You can find different sellers, you can compare prices, you can find used stuff, new stuff. You can look into ratings and see what other people's experiences are with the products. There's Amazon Prime, which I'm putting a link in my description to get a free month of Amazon Prime. And what that does is you get, under normal conditions, you get free 2-day shipping on most items. And that's a little bit different right now just because of everything that's going on. There's also Amazon Video. I'll put a link to get a free monthly trial of Amazon Prime Video, which is great. It's a great alternative to Netflix. Sometimes Netflix gets boring. I haven't even touched my Netflix. I don't even know how long at this point. Amazon has some similar stuff, but it has a lot of different stuff that's not on Netflix. And then, kind of the main topic for today is there's also Kindle on Amazon. And now I understand a lot of people prefer reading actual paper books, myself included. But that can get expensive, and space can be a thing for some people, I guess. So the Amazon Kindle thing is great because with Amazon Prime, you actually get access to a bunch of free books. If you haven't already, you can follow the links in my description to get a free trial to Amazon Prime or to a free trial of Kindle Unlimited for a month. And for Kindle, you can buy Amazon's Kindle reader. This thing was like 20 bucks or something like that. And mind you, it's not the fastest, nicest tablet that you could possibly purchase, but I mean, it does the trick just fine. It might take an extra minute or something to load the actual book, but let's see, it's loading up right now. All right, so this is a short story by one of my favorite authors, Nathaniel Hawthorne. He's really inspired a lot of my lyric writing, and he's definitely just one of my favorite authors all around. He just really has a way with words, as you'll see. This is a story called The Hollow of Three Hills. In those strange old times when fantastic dreams and madman's reveries were realized among the actual circumstances of life, two persons met together at an appointed hour and place. One was a lady, graceful in form and fair of feature, though pale and troubled and smitten with an untimely blight in what should have been the fullest bloom of her years. The other was an ancient and meanly dressed woman of ill-favored aspect, and so withered, shrunken, and decrepit that even the space since she began to decay must have exceeded the ordinary term of human existence. In the spot where they encountered, no mortal could observe them. Three little hills stood near each other, and down in the midst of them sunk a hollow basin, almost mathematically circular, 200 or 300 feet in breadth, and of such depth that a stately cedar might just be visible above the sides. Dwarf pines were numerous upon the hills, and partly fringed the outer verge of the intermediate hollow, within which there was nothing but the brown grass of October. And here and there a tree trunk that had fallen long ago and laid mouldering with no green successor from its roots. One of these masses of decaying wood, formerly a majestic oak, rested close beside a pool of green and sluggish water at the bottom of the basin. Such scenes at this, so great tradition tells, were once the resort of a power of evil and his plighted subjects, and here at midnight, or on the dim verge of evening, they were said to stand round the mantling pool, disturbing its putrid waters in the performance of an impious baptismal rite. The chill beauty of an autumnal sunset was now gliding the three hilltops, whence a paler tint stole down their sides into the hollow. Here is our pleasant meeting come to pass, said the aged crone, according as thou hast desired. Say quickly what thou wouldest of me, for there is but a short hour that we may tarry here. As the old withered woman spoke, a smile glimmered on her countenance like lamplight on the wall of a sepulchre. The lady trembled and cast her eyes upward to the verge of the basin, as if meditating to return with her purpose unaccomplished. But it was not so ordained. "I am stranger in this land, as you know," said she at length. "Whence I come it matters not, but I have left those behind me with whom my fate was intimately bound and from whom I am cut off forever. There is a weight in my bosom that I cannot away with, and I have come hither to inquire of their welfare." "And who is there by this green pool that can bring thee news from the ends of the earth?" cried the old woman, peering into the lady's face. "Not from my lips mayest thou hear these tidings, yet be thou bold, and the daylight shall not pass away from yonder hilltop before thy wish be granted." "I will do your bidding, though I die," replied the lady desperately. The old woman seated herself on the trunk of the fallen tree, threw aside the hood that shrouded her gray locks, and beckoned her companion to draw near. "Kneel down," she said, "and lay your forehead on my knees." She hesitated a moment, but the anxiety that had been long kindling burned fiercely up within her. As she knelt down, the border of her garment was dipped into the pool. She laid her forehead on the old woman's knees, and the latter drew her cloak about the lady's face, so that she was in darkness. Then she heard the muttered words of prayer, in the midst of which she started and would have arisen. Let me flee, and hide myself, that they may not look upon me," she cried. But with returning recollection, she hushed herself, and was still as death, for it seemed as if other voices, familiar in infancy and unforgotten, though many wanderings and in all the vicissitudes of her heart and fortune, were mingling with the accents of the prayer. At first the words were faint and indistinct, not rendered so by distance, but rather resembling the dim pages of a book which we strive to read by an imperfect and gradually brightening light. In such a manner as the prayer proceeded, did those voices strengthen upon the air, till at length the petition ended, and the conversation of an aged man and of a woman broken and decayed like himself became distinctly audible to the lady as she knelt. But those strangers appeared not to stand in the hollow depth between the three hills. Their voices were encompassed and re-echoed by the walls of a chamber, the windows of which were rattling in the breeze, the regular vibration of a clock, the crackling of a fire, and the tinkling of the embers as they fell among the ashes rendered the scene almost as vivid as if painted to the eye. By a melancholy hearth sat these two old people, the man calmly despondent, the woman querulous and tearful, and their words were all of sorrow. They spoke of a daughter, a wanderer they knew not where, bearing dishonor along with her and leaving shame and affliction to bring their gray heads to the grave. They alluded also to their other and more recent woe, but in the midst of their talk their voices seemed to melt into the sound of the wind sweeping mournfully among the autumn leaves, and when the lady lifted her eyes, there she was kneeling in the hollow between the three hills. "A weary and loathsome time yonder old couple have of it," remarked the old woman, smiling in the lady's face. "And did you also hear them?" exclaimed she, a sense of intolerable humiliation triumphing over her agony and fear. "Yeah, and we have yet more to hear," replied the old woman, "wherefore cover thy face quickly." Again the withered hag poured forth the monotonous words of a prayer that was not meant to be acceptable in heaven, and soon in the pauses of her breath strange murmurings began to thicken, gradually increasing so as to drown and overpower the charm by which they grew. Shrieks pierced through the obscurity of sound and were succeeded by the singing of sweet female voices, which in their turn gave way to a wild roar of laughter, broken suddenly by groanings and sobs, forming altogether a ghastly confusion of terror and mourning and mirth. Chains were rattling, fierce and stern voices uttered threats, and the scourge resounded at their command. All these noises deepened and became substantial to the listener's ear, till she could distinguish every soft and dreamy accent of the love songs that died causelessly into funeral hymns. She shuddered at the unprovoked wrath which blazed up like the spontaneous kindling of flume, and she grew faint at the fearful merriment ranging miserably around her. In the midst of this wild scene where unbound passions jostled each other in a drunken career, there was one solemn voice of a man, and a manly and melodious voice it might once have been. He went to and fro continually, and his feet sounded upon the floor. In each member of that frenzied company was whose own burning thoughts had become their exclusive world. He sought an auditor for the story of his individual wrong, and interpreted their laughter and tears as his reward of scorn or pity. He spoke of women's perfidy, of a wife who had broken her holiest vows, of a home and heart made desolate. Even as he went on, the shout, the laugh, the shriek, the sob rose up in unison till they changed into the hollow, fitful, and uneven sound of the wind as it fought among the pine trees on those three lonely hills. The lady looked up, and there was the withered woman smiling in her face. "Couldst thou have thought there were such merry times in a madhouse?" inquired the latter. "True, true," said the lady to herself. "There is mirth within its walls, but misery, misery without." "Wouldst thou hear more?" demanded the old woman. "There is one other voice I would fain listen to again," replied the lady faintly. "Then lay down thy head speedily upon my knees, that thou mayest get thee hence before the hour be past." The golden skirts of day were yet lingering upon the hills, but deep shades obscured the hollow in the pool, as if somber night wore rising thence to overspread the world. Again that evil woman began to weave her spell. Long did it proceed unanswered, till the knolling of a bell stole in among the intervals of her words like a clang that had traveled far over valley and rising ground and was just ready to die in the air. The lady shook upon her companion's knees as she heard that boding sound. Stronger it grew, and sadder, and deepened into the tone of a death bell, knolling dolefully from some ivy-mantled tower, and bearing tidings of mortality and woe to the cottage, to the hall, and to the solitary wayfarer, that all might weep for the doom appointed, and turn to them. Then came a measured tread, passing slowly, slowly on, as of mourners with a coffin, their garments trailing on the ground so that the air could measure the length of their melancholy array. Before them went the priest, reading the burial service, while the leaves of his book were rustling in the breeze. And though no voice but his was heard to speak aloud, still there were revelings and anathemas, whispered but distinct from women and from men, breathed against the daughter who had wrung the aged hearts of her parents, the wife who had betrayed the trusting fondness of her husband, the mother who had sinned against natural affection and left her child to die. The sweeping sound of the funeral train faded away like a thin vapor, and the wind, that just before had seemed to shake the coffin pall, moaned sadly round the verge of the hollow between the three hills. But when the old woman stirred the kneeling lady, she lifted not her head. "Here has been a sweet hour's sport," said the withered crone, chuckling to herself. I don't know about you guys, but Nathaniel Hawthorne's words are just like magic to me. Like, it doesn't even matter what he's talking about, just everything is just so beautifully articulated, and the symbolism and the imagery and just the morbid undertone of everything is just absolutely fascinating to me. And I think one of the other things I really like about Nathaniel Hawthorne specifically is that he is the, I think, grandson or great-grandson of the Judge Hawthorne that was the one that condemned like all of the witches in the Salem witch trials, and he hated his grandfather for doing that. He was not on his side. And a lot of Nathaniel Hawthorne's stories tend to revolve around the Salem and New England area, and like all of the different symbolism and stuff, like the fall and like the witchcraft aspect and stuff. And it's just so perfect for me. And anyone that's familiar with Voices of the Dead, my lyrics were very heavily inspired by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Just the imagery and just the poetic beauty that the guy uses to write. And I'm going to throw up on screen now the book that I'm reading this out of. If you have Amazon Prime, you can download this for free. You can read it on whatever device you have. You just have to download the Kindle app. You can download it on a computer, a tablet. I think you might be able to do it on a mobile device, but this has like literally like hundreds of authors on it right now. Like there's H.P. Lovecraft, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Edgar Allan Poe, and like most of their short stories are included in here. And so there's a link in the description to that. I think that's going to be it for now. So I think that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this, because hiking with Scott Dichotomy is definitely a regular thing. And I think I might start doing more of this. Like if you guys like hearing me read stories, especially short stories, I'm not going to read like a whole long ass story to you guys, but there's a whole bunch of short stories that I'd love to share with you guys that I feel like I could bring some value to. Instead of just downloading some audiobook or something like that, you can just come to my channel and I'll read you some books. Maybe I'll even put up individual videos of me just reading a certain short story. So say you're in the car and you want to hear me read you a short story along your ride. I'm gonna do that actually. I'm gonna make a separate video of me just reading this this story, and I'll do that with some other stories. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and stay safe out there, all right? I think that covers it. I think that's everything. There's a lot. But yeah, we're gonna end this vlog with some gorgeous shots of 100-mile scenic overlook. It's 100 miles of mountains. Pretty gorgeous. Cue the drone shots.